Hello and welcome to Diaconia, a call to service. Diaconia is the Greek root word for service, and is also the root word for deacon. This show is dedicated to service, not only service of deacons, but the service that we're all called to as Catholic Christians. And I'm Deacon Jim Norman, Vicar for Deacons with the Archdiocese of Chicago, joined by Deacon Dave Brinsick. Dave, welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
Associate Director for the Office of the Permanent Diaconate. Delighted today to have with us Deacon Tom Westerkamp from St. Anne in Barrington. Deacon Tom, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Very well.
Very well. Thank you for being with us.
Okay. My pleasure.
So, Tom, before we get started, if you could tell a little about yourself, your parish,
Sure.
your background.
Sure. So I am married, father of 3, grandfather of 7. I'm a retired pharmacist. I moved from St. James in Arlington Heights after 30 years there. When the grandkids moved out farther northwest, my wife and I followed. So I live in Cary, Illinois. I am a deacon at St. Anne's Catholic Community in Barrington. It's a fairly large parish. I think about 3,500, 4,000 families. We get about 1,800 people at Mass on a given weekend. And I recently went on a Catholic extension trip, and it was life-changing, powerful, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about it. It was really an eye-opening experience for me. I was ordained a deacon in 2009, so I've been at St. Anne's now about 5 or 6 years.
And Deacon, you'd mentioned, and that's certainly the reason for our time together, to learn a little bit about you and your ministry. Maybe before we go into the trip you were recently on, at your parish there in St. Anne, how are you involved in the various ministries?
Okay, so yeah, I joined the men's group right away just to slowly get integrated into the nuts and bolts of the parish. After being at St. James for 30 years, it was a little bit of a challenge to start all over again, but the people are so welcoming and so warm that it was an easy transition. So I'm on the men's group, and I am on the Creation Care Committee, which really is working on Laudato Si, Pope Francis's encyclical to try to save the planet and to improve our Earth. I'm also involved and in charge of the baptism preparation ministry. So all baptisms, all the preparation by all families, I do a once a month preparation class, show some videos, talk about baptism, what it is, what it isn't, and I get to meet a lot of the families that are bringing their children to St. Anne's for baptism. It's a wonderful, very powerful ministry. I enjoy that a lot.
And I didn't want to let the opportunity to pass, Deacon. You also provide support and guidance and connection for our widowed deacons within the Archdiocese of Chicago. So I wanted to thank you for that effort. So you're not only involved in your parish, you're actively involved in the diaconate community.
Yes, and on the council, I enjoy interacting with my brother deacons, and it's comforting to know that other guys are going through the same thing that we go through. So it's a wonderful brotherhood, I think, the diaconate.
So, Tom, what moved you to look into this trip sponsored by Catholic Extension?
Yeah, so St. Anne's has been involved with Catholic Extension for many years, at least 15 or 20. And 2 of the people, a husband and wife, that have been involved from the very inception are close friends of mine through my connections at St. Anne. And they were talking to me over the years and have planted the seed about you ought to try, coming on one of these immersion trips so you can get to know what it is that we do. So every year, Catholic Extension, we support Catholic Extension every year with a ministry, and every year we have a program that we do to support whatever project Catholic Extension is involved with, and they are involved with many around the country and even around the world. So we kind of adopt the Catholic Extension projects, and we adopt one for our own, and that's what we support on the annual appeal every year during Lent. So we pick out, of all the projects that Catholic Extension is doing, because we've been involved with them for so long, we are picking out one every year that we support and ask the parish to support, and we send pictures and we explain what we're doing, and over Lent we collect funds, which we share, of course, with Catholic Extension, so they can be funneled into their project, specifically for the ones that we've adopted for that year.
Okay. And so tell us about the project for 2025.
Okay, so there was I'm sure how I think last year they started talking about it, and so this year we had the immersion trip. So in early June, me and these two other folks from St. Anne's went on this Catholic Extension immersion trip to Appalachia in the Diocese of Lexington, Kentucky. And we spent 3 days, 2.5 days, driving around eastern Kentucky and Tennessee, observing what these parishes do and how they survive, despite the unemployment, despite the poverty, despite the floods that have wiped out a lot of the churches in that region. We observed firsthand what was going on at all these parishes. I think we stopped at 7 or 8. And what I found most remarkable was these parishes are tiny, tiny. It wasn't uncommon to hear a pastor say, well, we have 12 families, or we have 10 members that come to church every Sunday out of the 15 or 18 that are in the parish. So these are extremely small parishes. And they talk about the profound number that I'll share with you right now that blew me away. They say that in Appalachia, in eastern Kentucky and Tennessee, the percentage of Catholics is less than 1% of the population.
Wow.
And there's actually more Catholics in Saudi Arabia as a percentage.
Wow.
So in Appalachia, there are Christians, but Catholics number very, very little. But as we saw in all the parishes, we help the people in these parishes help everyone with the little bit of resources that they have. They support everyone, and they're known in these regions by the Presbyterians and the Baptists that if you need help, go to the Catholic Church. They will help anyone, no matter what.
Okay. Could you give us, you said 3 days and you visited maybe 7 churches in those 3 days?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What did a day look like? I mean, did you go to the food pantry gathering? Did you go to a prayer service? Give us a sense of what one day looked like for you?
They all had resale shops for donations from people, and they offered these clothing and the food for the people in need. What was disturbing was this food pantry that we observed. They showed us what they had, and unfortunately, they only were able to provide for families a 3-day supply. And I said, okay, that's not too bad, every couple of days, right? They said, no, once a month.
Oh, wow.
So once a month, they provide certain families with 3-day supply of, basic staples, but 3 days out of the 30. And they found other charities to go to, and these people survive somehow, some way. I don't know. It is profoundly depressing initially to see this poverty that is so strong. And then the food pantry, in addition to the food pantry, they have the clothing place where people can come and buy a t-shirt for $0.25. It allows them to have some sense of ownership. They're not taking pure charity. They try to, if people have no money, of course they give them the clothing, but they try to offer these people some dignity by letting them pay some small amount for the clothing that they get. So as older people die and their estates are divvied up, they go to the clothing, where the clothing is all kept, and they offer it to families at a discount to provide basic support for these families. Because the flooding I wasn't really aware of the flooding in Appalachia, but because of the coal mining, what it's done to the environment, and the global warming, it seems like there has been, 100-year floods more than once in the last couple of years, and the water in some of the churches was 6, 7, 8 feet high.
Wow.
And in the churches, you can see the watermark from several years ago where the water was. So these churches were obliterated, all had to be remodeled and cleaned up. And for some parishes, it took 18 months, 2 years to get it back to a serviceable space. But it's amazing. These people have very little industry, very little jobs, high unemployment, and then their church gets flooded, their homes get flooded, and yet they're somehow can smile and lean on their faith, and we couldn't help but be impressed by the people that we met.
And Tom, I was going to ask, you said there were 3 from the parish St. Anne that went on this
Yes.
immersion trip. Did you join other Catholics that
there
came
were,
from other parts of the country on the immersion trip?
Yes, we had a pastor and his associate from New Orleans. We had a pastor from San Francisco, and we had a group from New Jersey, a
Okay.
small group. I think total number on the trip was about 10 or 11, along with staff from Catholic Extension. And they just literally 7 a.m. you're in the car, you're driving around, you go to one place and the other. I took notes on a notebook so I could keep track of the things that I saw, because I'm sure I'm going to be using some of this in homilies at St. Anne down the road to share with the people at St. Anne what I saw and the tremendous need that exists there. And to connect with some charity, I think is what we need to do, because I know all of us, we have a lot of empathy for people who have no money. We're all blessed, right? We have money, or we have jobs, and we have a home, and we have food, but there are so many that don't. And so we have a lot of empathy, but I think the key ingredient is to find a charity that is all in, that is not someone who just writes a check and then leaves. The Catholic Extension, what I did see about them, and I don't know too much about them, I've just been exposed to them for a few weeks, but my colleagues at St. Anne have been involved with Catholic Extension for 20 years. And they've gone all over the country on mission trips, immersion trips, where they were immersed in an area, and that's the area that we adopted for our Lenten giving project at St. Anne. So our people go somewhere, observe, see the profound issues, and then bring those back in pictures and in website information and bulletin information. We try to share what we saw with the people at St. Anne.
Okay.
What kind of involvement then does Catholic Extension have in the parishes? Do they provide them funding? Do they provide them training? Or what does that look like?
They do a little bit of both. They never got into the specific detail where the money goes. I think just for I use our example, our parish raised, I think, $40,000, and then they had a matching grant. Catholic Extension had a matching grant from some organization, I don't know which, and they matched that $40,000. So we providing an $80,000 gift, and that's divvied up to all the parishes. How they decide who gets what, I don't know, but I do know that the areas that they support, I'm sure a lot of it is financial. I do know that they also support priests that are in formation, so that there's a sustainable clergy. Because although not every parish, in fact, none of the parishes we saw had a full-time pastor, they almost all rotate to 6 or 8 parishes on a Sunday. And it's not uncommon for a parish to have a priest once a month. And the priest would come and say Mass and, consecrate hosts, and they'd save them in the tabernacle. And then over the next 3 weeks, they would do a prayer service, or in one parish, they have a lay ministry people that do communion services on the weeks where a pastor or a priest can't make it there. And these parishes are pretty far apart, I mean, hour and a half we drove from one to another, up the winding roads, up and around, and there's, 60 to 90 minutes easily to go from one to another. You're in rural America, in a desolate area that has been just really taken back by the coal industry. So,
Yeah.
So, it's the stories of people who we encounter that really move hearts. Can you share some of your experiences with some of the people that you met?
Yeah, in all the parishes, I, again, was blown over. Of course, we keep it to ourselves. You observe the poverty, but you don't want to come across saying, oh my God, how do you... These people are all positive, faith-filled people. And from one parish to the next, without a doubt, that's what we saw. Always willing to help. What can I do to help? Always with their arms open to help one another, and people know to go to the Catholic Church for help. One family we did observe, and they allowed us to come to their home, not inside their home, but it was a 4-generation family. A great-grandmother, a grandmother, a mother, and 3 children under the age of 5. No job. Well, I think one of the women worked part-time at the ice cream shop for 4 hours a day at $10 an hour or whatever. That was their sole income. Profound poverty in the house. I can tell you what they shared with us from a dollar's standpoint. They said that there was a 4-bedroom house, 3 baths in the hills of Tennessee that we were. And they were excited because they were able to get this 4-bedroom, 3-bath house for $6,000. The 4-bedroom, 3-bath house in Appalachia cost $6,000, and she was so happy to have it. She'll be paying for it for a long period of time, but they were happy to have a home. And this 4-generation family, you could see the children, they would hug us. They came to us. I think they're used to the support of the parish that came with us. They would hug us, hug the priest. There were some sisters there from Mother Teresa's organization, and they picked up the kids and were walking and singing with them. And the mother had a lot of health issues. The grandmother had some health issues. There was some... because not only the unemployment and the depression, but there's some drug abuse going on because of the depression that goes on there, and the utter, I guess, frustration with not being able to dig out. But they appreciated the Catholic Church being there. They appreciated us. They thanked us for being there. They thanked us for the support of Catholic Extension. And I think they knew that Catholic Extension is there. How they support them financially, I don't know. But they knew that they're there. They don't fly in, sign a check, and then fly out. That's not what they do. In one of the parishes, they also are paying the tuition for the priest to go to become a priest. They're paying the tuition for this guy so that once he's ordained, he will become part of that organization and part of that parish and part of that region, where it'll be sustainable. Because I think that's where I think sometimes we, you want something to be sustainable, not just come in, write a check, and leave.
Yeah.
Something there that will stay there and last. So they support tuition of clergy, they support the remodeling of these churches, and then they support food pantries and clothing, places where they can get clothing. But all in all, smiles all around, incredibly faith-filled people. And I came there at the end of the trip kind of down and depressed and dark and sad. And the people that went with me said, "You've got it all wrong. We are being a light to them, and we support them." And they don't want our empathy. They just know that they are being supported, and that's what it's all about.
What was shared with you as you were thinking about that and getting kind of depressed, as you come back to the parish there at St. Anne, and you begin to share the pictures and the stories, I guess, what underlying messages will you try to convey to the parishioners there at St. Anne?
Yeah, the Catholic Extension took several hundred pictures, and they have a website we can download and use. And yeah, how I'm going to share that, I don't know. But I think I'll be honest, because I think a lot of people fall into that. Well, we want to help. We have empathy for the poor, and we want to write a check maybe, or we want to support them financially, but how do we do that? And I think having an organization that is on the ground there and is there for the long term, I will somehow, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. Because when I think of what I saw, there is a little bit inside me that gets a little sad, because it was, you couldn't help but be challenged by what you saw. Mm-hmm. But the fact that there's hope, the fact that there's an organization helping them, and that we want to help continue that support, that's what the message will be, is to continue the support. Because I think a lot of people want to help, but they don't know what to do.
Right.
Where can I provide some support to? And now seeing firsthand what Catholic Extension does, and I know there's a lot of charities that do a lot of good work, no question about it. I just saw up front 3 days immersed with this poverty, and I saw what Catholic Extension does, and I'll be very generous in supporting it, because I think they are doing good work.
I wanted to, if we all, 3 deacons, so we've got a trio of deacons here. Tom, I was wondering, you said, this depression, I serve a dignity breakfast at our parish for every second and fourth Saturday of the month. And one of the things that, and I'll be honest with you guys here and with the audience, part of what happens about that depression is, or for me, I look back at some of my thoughts, my actions, things that I maybe aspired for and to, in light of the poverty, and I'm a little bit down on myself. Does that, like how did I lose focus? I came here thinking about the next new outfit or the next new car, and here's a person that doesn't know where the next meal's coming from. Yeah. I guess, am I the only one experiencing that, Tom, or did you experience any of that in your trip?
Absolutely, and I think as deacons, we want to help. We're called to serve. That's what deacons do. And you go somewhere and you see an issue, a challenge, you say, okay, I want to fix it. Well, yeah. You can't fix it. You can help support it, but you can't fix it. And I think that's where the depression comes from, because we have resources that we can appreciate the poverty that exists, and we want to fix that poverty. We want to make it go away. That's what Jesus did. He helped those in need, and we want to do the same. But as you see, Jim, in your parish and in the parishes that I saw, you can't always fix things, but you can support efforts that support the people. And I think that's what we have to keep our eyes on and focus on, that, and not let the normal behavior of deacons, where we want to help and we can't, that frustration, we got to put that aside and just focus on the positive, focus on what we can do, not on what we can't.
Yeah.
And part of it too, I think, is accompanying people. We can't fix their situation, but we can walk with them, we can hear their stories, we can pray for them, and that, it's not fixing the problem, but the people know that we're there, and we've traveled hundreds of miles to see this and to spread the message to others that this is important work that needs to be supported.
Right. Well, I think, Dave, what you said so powerful is, and Tom mentioned this, there's care, there's concern, you're not alone, there's prayer, we're accompanying you, and we'll support you in whatever way we can, mm-hmm. either when we're present and when we're not present. Mm-hmm. And maybe in those situations, I think it's probably what we all want, right, is that we're not alone.
Yeah.
That we're not alone, that there are people that are praying for us, that there are people concerned about us, where otherwise it might seem like we're lost to the world, and mistakenly we might believe that somehow that we're lost to God and His love and grace and mercy. But that accompaniment is probably a symbol of that. And Tom, that's probably that's what you and those 10 or 11 that were going on this immersion project. That's what you were, because you didn't have to take your time and go to that area. And spend time and visit with families, right? And understand. And you certainly, once you did it, didn't have, you're coming back and sharing your experiences with others so that they can do what they can. And maybe that's the other thing that really happens. We move from this place of really depressed to a place of hope and engagement by sharing our time and our resources. And reprioritizing our time and our resources. I think the other thing that comes up out of the other side of that, Tom, and I wonder if it's come up for you, there's also a sense of like boundless gratitude that comes.
The people we met knew that they were supported, and they were thanking us for coming. They were praying for us when we left. Here we're coming there to try to help fix a problem, and they're embracing us, thanking us, being so grateful for us that it kind of flipped the whole equation. We think we're going to, fly in and make things better, and hopefully we will do that in the long term. But as we left, these people are not caught up in their poverty and their depression. They're thanking us, praying for us, blessing us. It was very powerful, very powerful.
Well, I think oftentimes, our idea is we're going to minister to these people, and they're the ones who minister to us, and we're changed by the experiences we have.
Yes, for sure.
I went on a mission trip with Hopes on the Way, a group of deacons, a couple of years ago down to that same area, Rutledge, Tennessee. And we heard the same things, Tom, that you've heard, that if you need help, go to the Catholic Church. They help everybody. Same message that you heard. And that, that it's a sense of pride that we have that reputation that the Catholic Church is there to help whoever needs it.
Yeah.
And Dave, you had a similar...
I was proud to be a Catholic and proud to be a part of that, because it would be easy to just get depressed and sad and saw what you saw and then go home and, reflect on it or whatever. But to be a part of that, knowing that I'm Catholic, we're going to support this, and people there appreciate it, that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
So Tom, based on what you shared with us, it seems that this is the beginning and maybe an expansion of St. Anne's commitment to the Catholic Extension Project and work?
Yeah. What I believe will happen as we meet is the three of us that were there I'm sure we will decide that this location and this project that's going on there, that we will support them financially in our Lenten appeal. So instead of having one Sunday during Lent, the whole Lenten season, we set up a booth in the gathering space. We put it on the website, we put it in the bulletin. I'll speak about it at masses. And it's to raise awareness of the people that come to church of what we saw and what we were able to glean and bring back, so that the people of St. Anne, through our eyes and our trip, will know where the money is going, so they can feel assured and they can be generous that we're just not writing a check and then go on to the next charity. These are committed organizations with committed people with long-lasting, sustained support, and that's a really good thing. Yeah, so that'll be this Lent, I'm sure. That'll be our Lenten appeal.
Will there also be an opportunity for other parishioners from St. Anne to go on an immersion trip to that area, or perhaps another area?
Perhaps another area. What I think we've been doing over the years is going, the folks that have been involved for many, many years, they go on a immersion trip to a location, see it firsthand, then bring that back, and then the parish decides, our Faith Justice Committee decides to support that project. Since we've had 2 people, and this year 3, see and observe firsthand what's going on, and then we'll start the ball rolling at St. Anne to let other people know what we saw, and that will be our Lenten appeal.
I was going to ask, as we prepare to close on our time together, you're going back and speaking to the parishioners at St. Anne. I guess what would you say to listeners and viewers today of things that they can do to support?
I think we all have to, especially in the northwest suburbs where there are folks that are very comfortable, and to get them to understand what exists outside of the northwest suburbs of Chicago, that there is profound poverty, but there are mechanisms and programs in place that are designed to help these people that are engulfed in poverty and unemployment and depression, and to share firsthand the positivity that comes out of that when you have a Catholic support system in place. So I think I look forward to Lent to sharing some of the stories that I've seen, sharing some of the people that I met, and to reaffirm to the people at St. Anne that to try to give generously if you're able to, because that which we give will be substantially received and put to good use. It's not given to overhead. It's not given to anything but the people. The money goes to the people. In fact, Catholic Extension did tell us that they have a grant from a large donor that pays for these immersion trips, so that the funds that we provide to Catholic Extension go to the people, not to the trips, because it does cost money to people to go there, and hotels, etc. So the money that we send to Catholic Extension goes to the people in the trenches, so to speak, and not to the overhead of running the Catholic Extension organization. I think that's a very positive thing as well.
I guess we encourage our listeners to, and we'll put it up just again as we prepare to close, the Catholic Extension website that they can explore, reach out to, and engage. The other thing from our time together today, Tom, I'm thinking about, we all, especially at this time of year, think about, okay, what trips do we have planned? They usually are trips around family. They're trips around places we always wanted to go, things we always wanted to do and see. And the question may be from our time with you today is, do we have a trip where we can go and be signs of God's love, grace, and mercy? Do I have one of those on my agenda in 2025, or can I put one on in 2026? Probably as valuable, actually more valuable for us, as valuable as any retreat experience we could probably have, but valuable for us because we will be ministered to as much as we are being present for others. So you put that on my mind and heart today from our time together, Tom. I thank you for being with us. I thank you for making the effort on behalf of your parish and behalf of the diaconate community to take this immersion trip, and then more importantly, be there and accompanying them and bringing back your experiences and insights to us to kind of open our minds and hearts to what we can all do.
Thanks. Yeah, it was, if you get a chance to see things firsthand, it'll change you forever, and it'll profoundly impact you, and it can change the trajectory of your life, I think, because when you come back, you can live out what you saw and help others, and that's what we're all called to do, right? Got to help one another.
Yeah, everything changes your priorities.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hopefully this time we spend together will begin to shift some priorities and perspectives towards greater service.
Thanks, Tom. God bless your ministry.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
God bless.
Can you be baptized like I have been baptized? Are you